You got to do when the Spirit says do. You got to do when the Spirit says do. When the Spirit says do, you got to do. Oh Lord, you got to do when the Spirit says do. 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 You got to sing when the Spirit says sing. You got to sing when the Spirit says sing. When the Spirit says sing, you got to sing, oh Lord. You got to sing when the Spirit says sing. 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 You got to dance when the Spirit says dance. You got to dance when the Spirit says dance. When the Spirit says dance, you got to dance, oh Lord. You got to dance when the Spirit says dance. 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 You got to do when the Spirit says do. You got to do when the Spirit says do. When the Spirit says do, you got to do, oh Lord. You got to do when the Spirit says do. 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 Spirit says do.
Welcome to the virtual sanctuary of Neshoba Unitarian Universalist Church. I am Sarah Osborne, the Director of Religious Exploration and Seminary student. I am delighted you are able to join us for this online service. It is good to be together in spirit. And now let us enter into a time of worship. The call to worship is from my friend, Reverend Deanna Vandiver. We gather together in this particular moment, in time and space, to take a breath together, to witness to the wonder and grief of it all, to know that we are lovable, loved, and loving, to remember that we are all in this together on our journey for collective liberation. Come, let us worship together.
With humility and courage born of our history, we are called as Unitarian Universalists to build the beloved community where all souls are welcome as blessings, and the human family lives whole and reconciled. With this vision in our hearts and minds, we light our chalice. Please join me in the reciting of the words of our affirmation of covenant. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is our sacrament, and service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve human need, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus we do covenant with each other and with God. Where Are You From? By Yamile, Saied, Mendez. Where are you from, they ask. Is your mom from here? Is your dad from there, they ask. I'm from here, from today. Same as everyone else, I say. No, where are you really from, they insist. I ask Abuelo because he knows everything. And like me, he looks like he doesn't belong. Where am I from? Abuelo thinks. His eyes squint like he's looking inside of his heart for an answer. You come from the Pampas, the open free land, he says. You're from the Gaucho, brave and strong, from the brown river that cleanses and feeds the land, that gives us the grain for our bread, the milk from the cows. You're from the mountains so high they tickle Señor Cielo's belly, where the condor roosts his family and the jaguar prowls the night. But you're also from the warm blue oceans the copper warriors tried to tame, and the elegant palm trees stretch their fingers to caress. You're from the hurricanes and the dark storms, and a tiny singing frog that calls the island people home when the sun goes to sleep. From this land where our ancestors built a home for all, even when they were in chains because of the color of their skin. You're from the grandmothers who search for their grandchildren, waiting always, waiting in a plaza, their white handkerchiefs wrapping the sorrow of their thoughts. You come from the sunshine that lights our path in this world, and the rain that washes away our mistakes. But Abuelo, I ask, where am I really from? Abuelo laughs. You want a place? He points to his heart. You're from here. From the love and the love of all of those before us. From those who dreamed of you because of a song sung under the Southern Cross. And the words in a book written under the light of the North Star. You? You're from all of us. I am.
Sonia Renee Taylor said, "We will not go back to normal. Normal never was. Our pre-corona experience was not normal other than we normalized greed, inequity, exhaustion, depletion, extraction, disconnection, confusion, rage, hoarding, hate, and lack. We should not long return, my friends. We are being given the opportunity to switch to a new garment, one that fits all of humanity and nature. What we have been forced to leave behind, we needed to leave behind. What is getting us through is what we will need to take forward. All the rest is up to us. Dream while we have so much time. Dream of the life you want. Dream of the world you desire to exist in. Look for the places in your dreams that have parts of the old world and remove them. What is the dream then? From there, we can add to the collective weaving of whatever it is that is next. If we are gonna heal, let it be glorious. For the opportunity to stitch a new garment, your act of generosity will sustain the collective dreams and missions of this church. Please give as you are able, utilizing the methods on the following graphic. And please know how very grateful we are for your gifts, no matter the size.
In the June newsletter, I wrote about the caterpillar's metamorphosis into a butterfly, a critical moment for the caterpillar in the time wrestling and changing in the chrysalis. Sometimes one might come across a chrysalis and impatiently think the butterfly needs help. But if the butterfly doesn't engage in the struggle to emerge, to rest and then pump their wings, the butterfly becomes misshapen and unable to fly. We have to trust the process that the butterfly will move at the speed that is right for them. Transformation for people is like this, isn't it? We need time for nourishment. We can take in resources and build up our energy. We need rest and patience for the inspiration that will come. And we need to embrace challenge, to wrestle with ourselves. It is up to each person to do the work of transformation. And unlike the butterfly, we need not go it alone. And it is not a one and done experience. I like to think that my internship site, the Beloved Conversations program, provides such a metamorphosis experience for folks wishing to deepen their faith formation and explore racial justice as a spiritual practice. There are several key moments in my seminary that led me to serving Beloved Conversations. One important point was the invitation to take an assessment called the Intercultural Development Inventory. It's an assessment for building cultural competence. It measures the capacity to shift cultural perspectives and adapt behaviors to cultural differences and commonalities. The most interesting thing about the assessment is that it provides you 2 scores, and 1 which relates to where you think you are, and 2 where you actually are on the continuum. Friends, let me tell you, I was so surprised to learn from my assessment debrief that I was not as interculturally oriented as I thought I was. How could this be? I am a proud Unitarian Universalist, and service is my prayer, and I'm a long-time religious educator. Social justice is a huge component to my faith. I wanted to be anointed and given a gold star. It was a humbling experience to realize I had much work to do in reaching cultural adaptability. In exasperation, I asked my professor, what should I do? And she said, I should be curious, open to learning, listen and engage with people who have different lived experiences. Start with a beginner's mind. The same semester I took the IDI, I signed up for a class with Dr. Mark Hicks, the director of the Fahs Collaborative and Beloved Conversations program. We held an experiential program on the campus of All Souls Unitarian Church in Tulsa. We participated in a variety of worship services. We listened to panels of religious professionals and lay leaders, and we caucused in white and Black, Indigenous, and other people of color groupings. We engaged in art and music and dance to process our learnings. We were uncovering truths about our ancestors and our own racial orientations in the world. Collaborative leadership was modeled in the program. Reverend Kirsten Homblett Allen, the coordinator for Beloved Conversations, co-led the class with Dr. Hicks, and we experienced a beautiful weaving of storytelling, ritual, and relational engagement. I was so profoundly impacted by my experience with the program that I went to Dr. Hicks and Reverend Kirsten and asked them if I could do my internship with Beloved Conversations. I was beginning to see that this work was the key not only to my faith formation, but my liberation. Well, after much hoop jumping and reorientation to a virtual program, I became the intern minister for Beloved Conversations. I quickly learned that Beloved Conversations is an agile, faith-filled relational program that offers folks the opportunity to reorient the way that we move through the world. How do we show up with that beginner's mind? How do we see and hear with fresh eyes and ears? Are we listening to respond, or are we listening to learn? Centering the voices and spiritual needs of Black, Indigenous, and other people of color, we recognize that there is different work to be done for white people. Racism is not so simple. Beloved Conversations is nuanced and multi-layered in its programming, and it begins with inviting folks to look within. The Within program of Beloved Conversations offers 2 curricula: gathering ourselves for our Black, Indigenous, people of color, and then unlearning and learning for liberation for white people. The goal of Beloved Conversations is to embody racial justice as a spiritual practice and to heal the impact of racism on all of our lives. The program is guided by the antidotes to the characteristics of white supremacy culture that were developed by Tema Okun and Kenneth Jones. The structure of the Within program employs individual reflection, partnered conversations, small group discussions, and large worshipful meaning-making sessions. As the ministerial intern, I have engaged in the collaborative crafting of this program. Not only are we building the ship as we sail it, but we are also being transformed by engaging with the program. My colleague and friend, Reverend Deanna Vandiver, says, "What we are doing is what we are doing, and repetition is the key to faith formation." It's not only about the content, but the way we are moving through the experience that greatly matters. Beloved Conversations is an invitation to clarity, a spiritual opportunity to look inward and outward from different angles. The program asks us to consider these questions. What stories are we telling that no longer feel right? What values are people holding that harm those with marginalized identities? How do we lament and find joy? Beloved Conversations serves as an anchor point with resources to help folks with reorientation to the ever-changing world we live in today. Octavia Butler offers this wisdom: all that you touch, you change. All that you change, changes you. The only lasting truth is change. God is change. Beloved Conversations challenges assumptions and presents a path that embraces change, because this is the way to create greater well-being. Change begins with reflection and accountability. We must consider our parts in the system that allows Black and brown bodies to be harmed, hurt, and killed on a regular basis. The recent guilty verdict of Derek Chauvin in the murder of George Floyd is a victory, a relief, but it's also a small step in the right direction. Author Layla Saied wrote, "There is no doubt that Floyd's senseless murder sparked a global uprising, the likes of which we have never seen before. But it's important to remember he was a man, a father, a brother, a cousin, a partner, a son first. His life mattered, and many have said, this isn't justice, this is accountability. We can absolutely celebrate this moment of accountability, but we can also hold in mind that the fact that many of us were unsure of if accountability would even come tell us how far we are away from justice. And that should keep us pushing forward, especially for those among us who are privileged by a system that makes accountability and justice for Black people, Indigenous people, and people of color a rarity. This is about a complete internal paradigm shift, an external system reprioritization that would ensure accountability and justice for all. If we are to be good ancestors, it is up to us to play our role with our time here on this earth to make that so. This is a lot to take in, isn't it? Will you take a moment with me to breathe? Let's take 3 deep breaths and let it out with a sigh. Thank you. To become a good ancestor, this is the work. As I strive for justice, I recognize that I have much more to learn about my part in upholding the system. Changing myself, I can better change the system. And what's such change that I've learned about in beloved conversations is to let go of perfectionism. Author Rose Zanetti says, when we see perfectionism for what it is, an imaginary ideal and not a destination, we loosen its tyranny over our lives. In chaining ourselves and others to unachievable standards, we stifle life. Unrelenting perfectionism often incites judgment, and then the shame from such judgment can induce and hinder our ability to work towards the very ideals we value. We render ourselves afraid to act lest we do something wrong or bad and suffer the attacks of vilifiers. This toxic feedback loop poisons not only our personal lives with invalidating self-regard, but also society. Nurturing transformation in ourselves and the world asks that we open our hearts to our own and others' failures, compassionately harvesting whatever wisdom they might offer. Perfectionism has held me back from acting bravely. There is a numbness and confusion that often coincides with perfectionism that excuses inaction or misdirected attention. And this struggle is more real for many of us as we continue to navigate a stressful and fatiguing COVID emerging world. We cannot go on striving towards perfectionism. Plus, by whose standards are we judging the idea of perfect? It just doesn't work. A participant in Beloved Conversations asked, what's so wrong with striving for perfection or excellence? And I believe this is a case of nuanced differences. Excellence is not the same thing as perfectionism. Beloved Conversations invites us to live with good enough, that quality engagement and relationship building is more important than a checklist of activities and projects to accomplish with precision. Another big learning for me is valuing the collective. Working collaboratively with the Beloved Conversations design team has opened my eyes to the beauty of multiple truths and ideas. When we value the collective, it affords us the chance to get really clear on who we are and how we wish to be known. This is honoring our interdependence in real practice. Individuals are lovely, but individualism is poison to collective liberation. The work of Beloved Conversations helps me to recognize that we're each helping each other get free by adapting to a new way of being. Moving at the speed of trust, I've also learned that slowing down is not only okay, but more generative and healthier. Sometimes looking at myself is uncomfortable to see how racism shows up in my life, and I have benefited from the system. It's time for me to listen, to understand that trustworthiness is a process. And just like the butterfly in the chrysalis, we cannot be rushed. And this is so hard because there is a tension here, right? The tension between urgently needing to change the system and moving slow enough so that we white people can not only change, but become trustworthy people. Beloved Conversations provides a space, as Glennon Doyle would say, to be messy and complicated and afraid and show up anyway. In the chrysalis of Beloved Conversations, you are welcome to practice humility, accountability, forgiveness, grace, and joy. Many of us will come to Beloved Conversations with years of experience. And what I'm learning is that there is a difference between being an expert and having expertise. And sometimes that means I need to ask how I can help rather than assuming the answer. This program creates a sacred space for faithful practice where I believe transformation takes place if you are open and willing. When I recently spoke to co-lead of the Southern region, Connie Goodbread, she reminded me of the 5 transcendent values of Unitarian Universalism: hope, love, justice, courage, and joy. And she says the greatest of these is love and justice. This is what we are called to do, to grow our souls by living a faithful practice of love and justice. Imagine the freedom the butterfly experiences when she is free of the chrysalis. So much love is available to give and receive if we are willing to engage in this work again and again. Beloved Conversations is changing me for the better. And I may not have emerged yet from my golden chrysalis. And I am moving at the speed of trust. Our closing words come to us from Octavia Butler from the Parable of the Talents. Kindness eases change. Love quiets fear. And a sweet and powerful positive obsession blunts pain, diverts rage, and engages each of us in the greatest, the most intense of our chosen struggles. Go in peace, create joy, and live with love. Amen, and blessed be.
When I lift my voice, let it be in song, a defiant note in the face of us. It will only unite us. I lift my voice. When I lift my voice, let it be for good. Let me care as much as I know.